a lot of times when we talk about personal finance, but I think, when we discuss it in our Islamic circles and gatherings, it's very much relegated to the fiqh aspect in terms of the transaction. So something, obviously no interest, right? Riba, everything is all about that. Most of our discourse is about that. Or it's about, maybe it's about ethical business practices or some type of transaction, whether it's allowed or not. But a lot of times we don't actually talk about the idea of wealth and the idea of saving, of the idea of growing our wealth, and what are the spiritual and ethical considerations in that. And so from that sort of broad starting point, I was hoping maybe you could start us off in this discussion, talking about some of those elements from a spiritual and ethical point of view in financial planning, which is a lot of the things that you also discuss in your own work.
Right. So when Muslims talk about finance, and you are very right in that so many of our conversations are very particular about the mechanics of halal and haram, and very particular about the fiqhi, Islamic legal minutia related to it. But a lot of times we miss out on some of the larger precepts, the larger concepts of wealth management, of personal finance, of financial planning, or even life planning. We have to take into consideration. The Prophet ﷺ said, قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع, that the 2 feet of a slave will not move on the Day of Judgment until he's asked about 4 things. One of them is وعن ماله من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه, about his wealth, where he earned it, and how he spent it. And so that actually, pretty much covers the 4, what are considered kind of the 4 pillars of personal finance. And that is your assets and your debts, your income and your expenses. Money in, money out. How much of it stays, over, and how much are you paying off in the long term? And so we really have an imperative as Muslims to think about why we own what we own, why we owe to others what we owe, why we make what we make, and what types of employment and gains do we seek to earn, and then what types of expenses and payouts are we incurring. And so my journey went from working in the Islamic finance industry to coming back in the summers and then engaging with community and seeing that there was this huge gap between what Muslims were worried about, what kind of structure is my mortgage, to am I actually doing my duty as a Muslim in gainfully permissible employment and responsible expenditure of what I've earned, and all of that has to circle back to that idea of us being accountable for our wealth on the Day of Judgment.
To listen to the full episode, please visit Imanwire.com.